19th?
And 20th floor?
What up there?
What if I told you that one of the most beloved cartoon dogs in television history, the one you still remember from Saturday mornings, the one whose name you can say in your sleep, almost had a completely different name, almost didn't exist the way you know him, and the man responsible for saving him was sitting on a plane, half asleep, listening to Frank Sinatra? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on Scooby-Doo, the cartoon that owned Saturday mornings for an entire generation, and revealing 8 absolutely insane behind-the-scenes facts from 1969 to 1976 that most history books barely even whisper about. And look, if you grew up sprinting to the television in your pajamas, bowl of cereal trembling in your hand, heart pounding before that iconic theme song even started, this video is going to hit you right in the nostalgia. But fair warning, by the time we get to number 3, everything you thought you knew about those meddling kids is going to feel a little different. I'm planting that seed right now. Remember it. I'm saving the wildest fact for last. Number 8 involves a decision so backwards, so absolutely mind-bending, that it nearly erased the entire show from television history before a single episode ever aired. Stay with me. You are not going to want to miss that one. Now let me set the scene. Remember when Saturday morning cartoons were the most sacred thing in your entire week? When nothing, not chores, not your grandmother's 30-minute phone call, not even the smell of fresh pancakes drifting from the kitchen could pull you away from that television set. The late 1960s were peak Saturday morning madness, a glorious, delirious era where network executives convinced themselves that if they threw enough talking animals, thin mystery plots, and cartoon chase sequences at children, they could keep an audience loyal forever. And honestly, they were mostly right. But here's what nobody ever told you. What most people, even the biggest Scooby-Doo fans alive today, still don't fully know is just how close we came to never getting this show at all. How many times it was rejected. How many times it almost died on a conference room table. How many completely bizarre decisions were made before that first episode ever made it onto your screen? Today, we're diving into 8 absolutely crazy behind-the-scenes facts about Scooby-Doo from 1969 to 1976 that will change the way you see this show forever. Or, at the very least, give you the best conversation starter at your next family dinner. Trust me, your grandkids won't believe a single one of these. Honestly, your grandparents might not either. And they lived through it. These weren't just fun little trivia facts. They were full-blown windows into how Saturday morning television really operated. Messy, unpredictable, brilliantly accidental, and occasionally run by people who were genuinely just winging it and hoping for the best. Let's get into it.
Hold it, Shay. Don't let that spooky specter be a spoil sport. We need a job, remember?
Fact number 1. The name Scooby-Doo came from Frank Sinatra. Let's start right at the very beginning, with the name itself, because this one is almost too good to be true, except it is completely, verifiably true. Scooby-Doo, as a character concept, had been floating around the offices of Hanna-Barbera for a while before anyone had a name that actually worked. Hanna-Barbera, that's the animation studio responsible for the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and practically every other animated household name from that era. They were the gold standard of Saturday morning entertainment. Talented, prolific, meaning endlessly productive, and under enormous pressure from CBS to deliver another hit. The concept of a mystery comedy cartoon featuring teenagers and a lovable dog mascot was already in development. The creative bones were there. The problem was, nothing they were calling it quite landed. The name just wasn't sticking. Here's where it gets wild. A CBS programming executive named Fred Silverman, and remember that name, because this man had his fingerprints on more television history than almost anyone, was on a flight home from a business trip in 1969. He was exhausted, the kind of tired where your brain stops filtering things and just floats. And somewhere over the American heartland, drifting in and out of sleep, he was listening to Frank Sinatra's 1966 classic, Strangers in the Night. Now, if you're younger and haven't heard it, Strangers in the Night is one of Sinatra's most iconic songs. Beautiful melody, unmistakably his. And at the very end of the song, Sinatra does a little playful vocal run, a scat, meaning improvised syllables sung in a jazzy, off-the-cuff way, where he sings, "Dooby-dooby-doo." Fred Silverman heard those 3 words, half asleep, 30,000 feet in the air, and something in his tired brain went, "That's it." He grabbed whatever was nearby, almost certainly a napkin, because that is how all great ideas in television history seem to happen, and wrote down, Scooby-Doo. That's it. That is the entire story. The most famous cartoon dog in history got his name from a tired executive on a plane and a Frank Sinatra scat lyric. Not a focus group, not months of branding strategy, not a marketing team. One man, one song, one napkin. Scooby-Doo proved that sometimes the best ideas don't come from the boardroom. They come from the moments when your brain is too exhausted to overthink anything. Sometimes genius sounds exactly like dooby-dooby-doo.
And double gulp. Come on, fellas, get a move
Fact
on.
number 2. The show was rejected. Repeatedly. Ruthlessly. Here's the part where you might need to sit down, because before Scooby-Doo became the Saturday morning institution you grew up loving, it was rejected. Not once, not twice, rejected multiple times by the very network that eventually aired it, CBS. The same network that would eventually make this show a cultural landmark did not want it. Not in its original form, not even close. The very first pitch for what would become Scooby-Doo was called Who's Scared? A title that, honestly, tells you almost everything about the original tone they were going for. It was darker. The mystery element had a more genuinely spooky quality to it. The dog character was played much straighter, without the over-the-top cowardly slapstick. Think physical, exaggerated comedy that would eventually make Scooby iconic. CBS looked at it and said, essentially, absolutely not. Too scary, too edgy, wrong for Saturday morning kids television. So Hanna-Barbera went back and reworked the whole thing. They softened it. They leaned harder into comedy. They made the monsters obviously fake, the chases more cartoonish, the tone warmer and safer. Kind of like taking a perfectly seasoned stew and watering it down until it's just a bowl of vaguely warm broth, and resubmitted it. CBS said no, again. What the network wanted at its core was something completely harmless. Something that a parent could walk past the television and feel zero anxiety about. Something warm, funny, and so thoroughly inoffensive that not a single letter of complaint would ever arrive at their offices. It took multiple rounds of revisions, what must have been soul-crushing feedback sessions, and the patience of absolute saints before CBS finally said yes to a version of the show. And even then, they were not confident. The executives were skeptical it would perform. That a show rejected that many times became one of the most beloved cartoons in television history is genuinely one of the great underdog stories ever told. Sometimes the thing everyone keeps saying no to is exactly the thing that changes everything. Fact number 3. The original gang looked completely different. Now this next fact, this is the one where your mental image of Mystery Inc. is about to get a little scrambled. Because the gang as you know them, Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby, that perfectly assembled 5-person unit, feels inevitable in hindsight. Like they were always meant to be together. They weren't. The original version of the group, in those early development pitches, was called the Mysteries 5. 5 members. That part stayed. But the overall concept and lineup? Completely different in feeling and tone. There was a character named Jeff, not Fred, who played bongo drums. The show had a heavy music band angle, much closer in spirit to the Archies, which was an enormously popular animated band cartoon of that same era. Think about that for a moment. The show that became the gold standard for animated mystery-solving television was originally conceived as closer to a cartoon band that also occasionally solved crimes on the side. The mystery was almost a secondary element. The vibe was more groovy teenagers with instruments than teenage detectives unmasking criminal masterminds. The character designs were also very much products of the late 60s counterculture, meaning the youth movement that pushed back against traditional society, visually hip, colorful, and looking perfectly at home on a psychedelic poster. As the show went through its many rounds of revision and rejection, the music band angle got stripped away. The characters got clearer, more defined, and what crystallized was the mystery comedy formula we know today. Fred became the square-jawed, perpetually in charge leader. Velma became the brains of the operation. Daphne became the stylish one who somehow always ended up captured. And Shaggy and Scooby became the beating comedic heart. But somewhere in an alternate universe, Jeff is still out there, playing bongo drums and catching a bad guy between sets. Mystery Inc. wasn't perfectly designed. It evolved through failure, feedback, and a lot of creative wrestling. And that's probably exactly why it worked. Here's something that genuinely surprises me. Every single time I look, and I mean every single time, I know that thousands of you just watched those first 3 facts, maybe said, "Wait, what?" out loud, maybe even rewound that Frank Sinatra part just to hear it twice. I saw you. And yet, barely 1 in 100 of the people watching this are actually subscribed to this channel. Not subscribed, just watching. Like someone who shows up to every family dinner, but never calls grandma on her birthday. You've been here. You clearly love these stories, and subscribing is free. 1 tap. You're not joining a cult, you're joining a community of people who believe these television stories deserve to be remembered, respected, and talked about. That's who we are here. Come be part of that. And while you're at it, drop a comment below right now. Did you know about the Frank Sinatra connection? I genuinely want to know. I read every single one.
Work. Give me a towel, Scooby. Got it.
Fact number 4. Scooby was almost not a dog. All right, are you ready for this one? Because this one still gets me every time I say it out loud. Scooby-Doo almost was not a dog. Not a Great Dane, not the lovable, gangly, rubbery creature you know. In the early development stages at Hanna-Barbera, the creative team experimented with multiple different animals for the show's central mascot character. A cat was on the list, a mouse was considered, and I need you to really sit with this for a moment, a baby gorilla was apparently on the table at one point. A baby gorilla. In a collar, solving mysteries, with a group of teenagers in a painted van. I want you to picture the alternate universe where that show got made. The theme song, the catchphrase, "Baby Gorilla Do, Where Are You?" The plush toys, the lunchboxes. I genuinely cannot decide whether that would have been the greatest television program ever produced or an absolute catastrophe. But I am oddly grateful we never had to find out. The decision to make the mascot a dog was ultimately rooted in something very practical and very smart. Dogs are universally likable. They transcend cultural lines. They are non-threatening, familiar, and deeply tied to positive human emotions across virtually every demographic. And a large, goofy dog who is absolutely terrified of absolutely everything? That's inherently funny in a way that requires almost no explanation. The choice of Great Danes specifically came from a deliberate desire to subvert expectations, to flip what you assume from the breed. Great Danes are enormous, imposing, dignified animals. They look like they should be guarding a manor house somewhere in England. Making one the biggest coward in any room he walks into is comedy that practically writes itself. It's like hiring the tallest, most intimidating-looking person in your office to scream at the sight of a moth. The contrast alone is the joke, every single time. Scooby-Doo as a Great Dane wasn't just a casting choice, it was the entire comedic engine of the show. And we almost got a baby gorilla instead. Let that breathe.
I don't know. Oh, probably just my imagination.
Yeah, imagination.
Fact number 5. The show was born because parents were furious. This next one is not just a crazy fact, it is actually important because it explains, at a fundamental level, why Scooby-Doo was even commissioned at all. By the late 1960s, there was a full-blown moral panic, meaning a widespread, public, emotionally charged freakout about violence in children's Saturday morning cartoons. Parent advocacy groups, concerned citizens organizations, and high-profile critics were writing letters, making noise in the press, and loudly lobbying television networks to clean up what American children were watching every weekend morning. And this was not just cultural background noise. The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, which is the government agency that regulates what gets broadcast on American television and radio, was paying very close attention. Networks felt genuine institutional pressure to demonstrate that they were being responsible with the content they put in front of children. CBS's response, in significant part, was to commission shows that were demonstrably, provably harmless. Comedy-forward, non-violent. Shows where even the scary moments were obviously toothless. Where the monsters always turned out to be ordinary humans in costumes. Where nobody ever actually got hurt. And where the message underneath every episode was, there is nothing really out there to be afraid of. That structural element of Scooby-Doo, the unmasking, the reveal that the monster was always just a person, was not purely a creative choice. It was a deliberate, network-sanctioned message built directly into the DNA of the show. Scooby-Doo was almost literally engineered to be the anti-violence cartoon, which means someone's grandmother wrote a strongly worded letter to CBS sometime around 1967, and the butterfly effect of that letter led directly to Saturday mornings that you still remember decades later. That is a remarkable thing to sit with. Sometimes, the most creatively free-feeling things are the ones built inside the tightest constraints. Fact number 6. Shaggy's real name will either make you laugh or feel betrayed. This one is short, it is sweet, and it is guaranteed to produce one of two reactions. Either you will laugh, or you will feel a very specific kind of mild, personal betrayal. Possibly both, at the exact same time. Shaggy's real name is not Shaggy. His actual, full, official, documented name, confirmed in series records and referenced across multiple later reboots, is Norville Rogers. Norville. The most laid-back, perpetually famished, ghost-fleeing, last to volunteer for anything teenager in the history of animated television, is named Norville Rogers, and he goes by Shaggy, which, once the shock fades, makes complete logical sense, because Shaggy was perfect 1960s slang for someone with messy, unruly, unkempt hair, which Norville absolutely has, in abundance. But here's the layer underneath the laugh, because there is always a layer underneath the laugh with this show. Shaggy, Norville, if you're feeling particularly formal about it, was one of the most carefully considered characters in the entire ensemble. He was not just the comic relief. He and Scooby were deliberately positioned as the emotional anchors of the series, the characters that the audience was meant to truly see themselves in. Not the brave leader, not the intellectual, not the stylish one, the scared one. The hungry one, the one who desperately wanted to run away from every single situation, but somehow always ended up in the middle of the adventure anyway. That is extraordinarily relatable. That is, honestly, most of us, most of the time. Shaggy was the secret soul of Scooby-Doo, and his government name was Norville Rogers. You are welcome to never think about anything else for the rest of the afternoon. Okay, I have to stop here for just a second. Because I know someone watching this right now is genuinely stunned. Maybe you grew up with this show. Maybe you watched it every single Saturday as a kid. Or maybe you've sat your own grandchildren in front of it and watched them fall in love with it the same way you did. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you are thinking, how did I go my entire life not knowing any of this? You are not alone. 9 out of 10 people who find this channel have never heard these stories told this way before. Not even close. That is exactly why I am here. Subscribing costs you nothing, not a single cent, and it means you will never miss the next story like this one. One tap. That's it. One tap. And after you do that, leave a comment telling me which fact has surprised you the most so far. I read every single comment. Every one. This is a conversation, not a broadcast.
And double gulp.
Come on, fellas, get a move on.
Right now?
Right now.
Yes, sir.
Fact number 7. The Mystery Machine was a cultural statement. Now, let us talk about the van, because the Mystery Machine is not just a vehicle. It is practically a character in its own right, and its design is far more intentional than most people have ever stopped to consider. The late 1960s were the height of the American counterculture movement, the era of flower power, psychedelic art, and music. And by psychedelic, I mean vivid, surreal, wildly colorful. A generation of young people who were painting flowers on everything they owned, blasting rock music, and driving brightly decorated vans across the country to music festivals and protests alike. The Mystery Machine, with its teal-green body, its bold flower designs, its groovy hand-lettered signage, was a direct, knowing, entirely deliberate visual reference to that cultural moment. It was not random. It was not just colorful because cartoons are colorful. It was a very specific creative choice to make the show feel plugged into the world its young audience was actually living in. It signaled, the moment you saw it on screen, these teenagers are of this moment. They belong to right now. The van became iconic not just because it looked cool, but because it captured a very specific snapshot of American cultural life in 1969 and froze it in animation forever. Every time you look at the Mystery Machine, you are looking at a portrait of late 60s America. Youthful, slightly chaotic, oddly optimistic, and absolutely covered in flowers. Which also explains a great deal about why Scooby-Doo continues to resonate across generations. You are not just nostalgic for the cartoon. You are nostalgic for an entire era of cultural feeling. The Mystery Machine carries all of that, quietly, on its painted doors. Some design choices become iconic because they are exactly right for their moment. That van was exactly right. Right time, right color, right flowers. And here we are. Fact number 8. The one I promised you at the top of this video. The one I told you to remember. And I want you to understand, after everything we have already covered today, after all the rejections and reworkings and near misses, this one is still, somehow, the most unbelievable. After its first season in 1969, Scooby-Doo was almost canceled. Now, before you assume the ratings were bad, they were not. Audiences responded. Kids were watching. The show was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. CBS wanted to change it anyway. The proposed alterations, meaning the changes they wanted to make, from CBS after season 1 included adding new characters to the roster, dramatically shifting the comedic tone even further into slapstick territory, reducing the mystery-solving elements that were the entire structural identity of the show, and here is the part that makes animation historians genuinely wince, making the format so aggressively comedic that the mystery component might have been dropped altogether. Think about that sentence one more time. They wanted to take a show called Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? A show whose entire premise, whose entire reason for existing, whose every single episode is built around solving a mystery and potentially remove the mystery solving. That is like a barbecue restaurant that everybody loves deciding, after one incredible opening month, to stop serving barbecue. We'll just do salads. Keep the name though. The reason this catastrophic overhaul did not happen was a combination of factors. Sustained audience response that was impossible to ignore. The advocacy of key creative voices at Hanna-Barbera who pushed back hard against the most extreme proposed changes. And ultimately, the ratings data doing its job. Enough people were watching. Enough kids were showing up on Saturday mornings. The numbers made the argument that the creative team could not make alone. The show was renewed, the format was preserved, and over the following years, Scooby-Doo became one of the most successful and enduring Saturday morning cartoon franchises in the entire history of American television, spawning feature films, spin-offs, reboots, merchandise, and a cultural legacy that is still very much alive and running today. But for one genuinely terrifying, fully documented moment in network history, it all hung by a thread. One season, one set of ratings, one group of executives deciding, just barely, to trust what the audience was already telling them. Scooby-Doo proved that the difference between a canceled footnote and a cultural institution is often just one season, one brave creative decision, and one group of people who chose to listen to the audience instead of their own second-guessing. Sometimes, the thing most worth fighting for is the thing everyone else is already ready to give up on. And there you have it. 8 crazy, brilliant, barely told facts about Scooby-Doo that most people, even the most devoted lifelong fans, have never fully heard before. From a Frank Sinatra scat heard on a red-eye flight, to a baby gorilla that almost changed animation history forever. From a gang that used to have bongo drums, to a show that almost had its own mysteries surgically removed. From a parent letter-writing campaign that accidentally created a cultural landmark, to a Great Dane named after a dignity he absolutely did not possess. This was not just a cartoon. It was an accident of circumstance, a product of its cultural moment, a fight against rejection at every single stage, and, somehow, miraculously, one of the most beloved pieces of television history ever made. Now, if this video hits you right in that Saturday morning feeling, right in that place where cereal and cartoons still live, I have one more story I think you need to hear next. I am leaving it right up here on your screen. I will just say this much. It involves another iconic animated show from this same era that came this close to the exact same fate, and the behind-the-scenes story, just as wild. Do not close this tab. The next chapter is already waiting for you.